Oh, exciting. I see all the people coming in for this session. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this exciting session of Christine and Guests, where I invite some really interesting people from my network to come and chat about food and agriculture and the frontiers of innovation and entrepreneurship and all kinds of leadership skills for the 21st century and more. And it is an absolute true pleasure today to have Beatriz Domeniconi. We have been practicing this.
Okay.
Not good at Italian. Joining us from Raízen in Brazil, and she is the Sustainability Coordinator there, working on sugarcane. And I'm really excited today to chat about one of the world's, most interesting and important crops, also a crop rife with, misunderstanding and also issues. So we can dive into those. But even more importantly, I want to talk about what it means to be driving a sustainability agenda in today's world, in agriculture and in COVID times. So before we, launch into the discussion, I want Beatriz, you to introduce yourself. And I'd also like to say a warm welcome to all of the people who are tuning in here on our Zoom telecast, as well as on Facebook Live. And I would love to hear from you. The gist of this is to have, a live and engaging conversation. We want to get real. We want to, talk about hard topics and not just the high level messages, because, Zoom is taking over our lives, so we want to make this interesting. And so I'm here to take your questions. So if you're in the audience, feel free to jump in with questions and ideas and topics that you want us to cover. So hi to everyone, and hi to you, Beatriz. So I'd love to have you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay. Hi, Christine. Thank you so much for this introduction. Actually, it was my pleasure to be here today to talking to you. There is very interesting person actually, and have a great work with this TFF community. And it's also my pleasure to be here to talking to this great community all around the world. So my pleasure to be here. I'm very honored to be invited to be here, to be in this partnership, and I hope I can contribute with a little about all these topics you said, and I hope we have a very nice conversation today. So, okay, let me introduce myself. Well, I'm from Brazil. I lived most of my life here in São Paulo. That is one of the biggest cities of my country, and I studied animal science and agronomy. So I did both courses, and I started working animal science. I studied a lot of animal production, food production. And by the end of the course, I decided that I would like to know a broader course, a broader science. And then I went to the agronomy. And during both courses, I could work with so many different systems of production, of food production, fuel, energy, fiber, feed, whatever. And I felt in love for systems of production, for different systems of production, and especially for the combination of systems of production. And maybe this was the seed of my passion for sustainability, because in the future and after all of that, I discovered that sustainability is pretty much the combination of so many different sciences and systems. I worked in 3 different associations before come to Raízen. So I worked in associations for Brazilian beef exporters, for oil seeds, oil industries, and also for the Brazilian Roundtable on Sustainable Livestock. Mm-hmm. And all of those those experiences, I worked with the industry's commitments, industry's issues related to sustainability on their supply chains, on their production chains. And especially on the roundtable, I worked with the combination of efforts, the joint efforts with different segments along the value chains to put on practice the sustainability and sustainable development. And since I came for Raízen, I'm here since July last year. So there's a little more than 1 year I'm working here, and I'm very fascinated with this. That is my first corporate experience. So here I'm very involved with more corporate sustainability issues. I'm responsible for some partnerships and governance of our platform for sustainable sugarcane, relationship with clients and suppliers in this sustainability agenda. The process for managing and to be transparent with our sustainability performance, such as annual report or GRE or other questionnaires that we respond all the time to tell to the market our performance in sustainability, and also to developing some contents related to sustainability in our value chain, in our activities to communicate internally and externally too. So this is basically what I am and what I'm doing nowadays.
Small job, I'll say. I'm just kidding. It sounds like you have a lot on your plate. Before I totally forgot to say one thing for our audience, which is we have a very special technical edition. We're living in the future here. We have live simultaneous translation happening to our partners at Skylar. So if any of you, obviously this conversation is being held in English, but if you would like to follow in Portuguese, please do click on the closed caption button in your More section of Zoom, and you can follow the instant translation. I think there's like a small lag of a couple of seconds, but I really feel like this is like so cool that, you know, suddenly conversations can be happening in real time in different languages. So thank you, Skylar, for you know, being our partner for this conversation. I also want to give a big shout out to our TFF regional coordinator, Jessica, who I see is participating today, and we have a few of our TFFers in Brazil on the line too, Mateus, Leticia, and more. So shout out to all of you. Thanks for joining with Beatriz. So Beatriz, back to you, the focus of today's conversation. I mean, Brazil is a superpower in agriculture, and you have basically played a role in all of the key, if you will, kind of like big ag plays that Brazil is leading on, right? Like, be it in livestock, be it in oil seeds, be it now in sugarcane. And so I can imagine as a sustainability professional that you've been up against some difficult and challenging conversations, because sustainability and production agriculture, especially in those sectors, can sometimes be a little bit at odds, I would imagine. So can you share a little bit how you are navigating this world and bringing sustainability, like really, like, so it's real and not just corporate social responsibility and not just like a greenwashing into the activity in these sectors? Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Of course, this will probably be the main part of our conversation. Actually, I will always bring some of my experience with the most difficult conversations I had related to those value chains. So beef producing, soy producing, sugarcane producing, all those systems are very important for our economy. The agribusiness is very important for our economy, and so the preservation of natural resources is too. So but the most common conversation are always starting on something related to the concours. They do not concours, you know. the productivity, the production of the food production, the agribusiness should not concur with the natural resources preservation. And this is something we are talking more about last years, and we are also trying to better understanding how we do this on a better way. And most of people, when talk about Brazil, are always knowing about the deforestation or any social or environmental issues that are there, that are real. They happen, and they happen in some places, but most of the information they don't consider is the power that you mentioned, that Brazil is a superpower in agribusiness, in agri-producing. Brazil is also a power, a big power in conservation. If we take some information related to the natural vegetation that is preserved in Brazil, we have more than 60% of our territory that is still natural vegetation. We have a huge country, and we have a lot of different realities here. We have different realities, we have different biomes, different conditions of productions, and we are a relatively new economy compared to other countries such as in the European Union, or such as United States, or other big countries, big food producers. We are a new economy. We are still developing our systems. We are still developing our process. And we are already achieved huge success. So that's good. But of course, when I say that, well, okay, we have more than 60% of our territory capped, I don't mean we are sustainable. I don't mean we are okay, we don't need to worry about this anymore. Actually, what I mean is that we need to be aware of the risks, aware of the relationship between the production and the preservation, and we need to find the middle way. We need to always find the balance. And talking about food production as a whole, I think that with the growing population and all the scenery in the world during the last decades, all the food systems were very intensified. They were very intensified, they were very demanded. So maybe nowadays we have the option, or maybe the opportunity, to look at the systems and try to understand is this the better model we have? Or there are some systems that must be more intensified, and other that must be, I don't know how to say it, disintensified. I really don't know, but you know, to step back on intensification.
Right.
So we need to look at this and really believe that they are not they are not concurring by a place. They can exist, that they can be possible together. There are a lot of technologies already developed that can ensure that the food production, the agribusiness sector on a sustainable way. So this is something we need to believe, and we need to work for ensure that there is no simple solution for all those value chains. There is no simple solution. There is a combination of different technologies, and then we can put all together. This is be a power in
exactly
in production and conservation too.
I mean, it's music to our ears. Like in Thought for Food land, we often use exactly that language, that there is no simple solution. The world is very complex, but especially the world of food and agriculture. It's localized, it's globalized, it's these systems, very complex systems, natural systems, human health systems, all like working together. And like you said, it's about bringing diverse solutions together to create something new and better, right, than what has existed before. So I'm really like excited to see that you're bringing that mindset and ethos right into the work that you are doing. And I'd love to touch a little bit more on systems, because recently, like I joined the advisory committee for this UN Foods Systems Summit that is going to be taking place next year in 2021. And the whole like idea of this summit, which has a series of action tracks and committees, scientific committees and others, is really to start to develop systems thinking, right, and systems solutions for food and agriculture, because so much of it has been just like a siloed approach, you know, part of the puzzle. And how do we get everybody working together in these systemic ways? And it's really, really hard to do. But I feel like sugarcane is a good place to start, because it's like one of those crops that's used in like many different, you know, types of spaces for food, for fuel, for feed.
For energy, for feed, yes.
Yeah, so you're like touching on a whole bunch of different sectors. And of course, yeah, I just would like to like transition a little bit more to like systems, what you think about how we can start to think in systems and develop solutions. And then like also transition into like sugarcane as, you know, a crop, and like what you're doing with Raízen, like one of the biggest companies in this space. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, I agree with you. That is a great challenge to build up the puzzle. Okay,
Yeah.
this is there's something I used to say that sustainability is also a matter of diversity. We used to use the term diversity for so many different things, especially the relationship, people relationship. But if we use the same concept for systems, the diversity is the key. Diversity of systems. There's no sustainable system, one sustainable system of production. And I say that not only for sugarcane or soybean or pasture lands for beef producing. I mean that all kinds of systems need to be more, need to be chosen and need to be suitable for realities, from different realities. So you need to consider the level of development of the population in the region. You need to consider the economics. You need to consider soil and environmental conditions. So there's no sustainable system like, okay, the organic system is more sustainable than conventional one. I don't know where, when.
Yeah, which part of the system are you measuring?
Considering, yes, what are you considering? So it can be more sustainable some places and not that sustainable other places. Right. So I think that the key is to find the most, is to consider diversity of systems always, not try to find a silver bullet for sustainability. Like, okay, we will, and there's another thing, it's important to consider more, a huge number of technologies. The greater number you can consider is better, because there's a lot of technologies that have been developing during every day, during all the time, and we need to put this technology on practice. Yeah. And sometimes in some of the chains I've worked in the livestock, for example, especially here in Brazil, in the tropical livestock production, for example, the adoption of technology is, the lack of adoption of technology is the problem. Because it's not adopted, the technology is not adopted, the system is not that productive, and it's not sustainable enough. So you need to find this balance, and I really believe on the diversity of systems to compose a sustainable system of production.
Well, that's how nature works, right? I mean, I always think about like nature is very complex, but yet elegantly simple. But like one of the things that nature does so beautifully is foster diversity, right, of systems. And this is like actually, yeah, we moved so much into like industrial efficiency models, but resiliency in nature comes from, you know, these diverse systems, and being able to, when something breaks, you have a backup, you know, kind of place that can take.
You brought two important concepts here. You talked about resilience, and sustainability is all about resilience. when we say that something is sustainable, what we mean is that it's possible along the time. It is possible in long term. It is resilient. So to be sustainable or to be resilient, we need to be diverse. So maybe this is a great concept. And
I love that, because I think just many people, like, sustainability is losing its luster as the word, right? It was like, because to some people it means sustaining the status quo. And actually, exactly what you said, sustainability, if you want to sustain human livelihoods, and, you know, we need to sustain the environment, and that's all about designing for resilience, because so much happens in complexity. And so I love what you just said, that sustainability equals resilience. And so, which brings me to, like, one of the questions I'm sure, like, on everybody's mind is, like, COVID. What's happening right now in Brazil to agriculture, agribusiness? Like, what are some of the phenomenons? And do you feel like there is, you know, resilience that you're seeing in the systems that exist in your country?
Yeah, maybe the answer will not be only for my country. Actually, COVID will change our lives forever. And our lives, like, I mean, everything we thought it was normal, it was possible before, maybe these crises is making a huge movement inside our minds, you know. Like, I see a lot of people talking about their habits, their consumption, their behavior, and how they can change everything. Like, looking at the pandemic as a change, like to change the page, to fold the page. I don't know how to say that, but it will be two different eras in few years. The before COVID and after COVID. And I, in the beginning, I thought that the crises were give a step back on sustainability, on all the sustainability agenda. You know, some economic crisis could slow down some projects, and of course in this area we were very afraid about this. We were very worried about this. But what I see and what I do believe is that the crisis will actually foster the sustainability agenda, because everybody is thinking and giving more attention to sustainability issues, and looking how connected we are, how connected the world is, and how something that we are doing here can affect lives all around the world. So this is all related to sustainability and sustainable way of live. So I think that I really believe that the agenda will be fostered after COVID, and during the COVID we are actually seeing a movement more. The sustainability word is more present on our speeches, on all conversations. We are watching a very interesting movement, not only corporative movements, but I think social movement. People are looking at sustainability not as a parallel thing, but maybe as a core business, you know, and this is something I think it will change in the future. Maybe corporations, maybe the business will not look at sustainability as something that's independent of the business, but all the business should be sustainable. So they need to be considered on the core business of the companies, of the sectors. So I think it is a crisis. Of course it is. It is a social crisis. It is a production crisis, but as all crises, it teaches us. So we are learning in that.
Like you, I've spent a large part of my career in agriculture, in the sustainability world, and also with kind of like big business, big industry. And I do have a thought, which is that I think agriculture, despite its kind of like sometimes negative perception in the world, or indeed its negative footprint in the world, like from some of the angles, but big business in this sector has always kind of done what you've said, which is like embed some parts of sustainability into their agendas, because at least in like some sides of it, I don't know like livestock as deeply, but in some sides of it, it's been about the social license to operate, and also the farmers, you know, who are customers to some of the big agribusiness and to consumers. You know, safety is important, and indeed you need to protect the environment, right, to sustain your farm and to sustain your business. And so companies have been thinking about a lot of these topics, at least, you know, for the 20 years I've been in this industry. And not to say they haven't gotten it wrong a lot of the time, but like I said, I've been in some very like rich and I think like visionary conversations even before COVID, right? About like the role of business, the necessity of business in, you know, helping to mitigate climate change, because agriculture causes climate change, but it also is deeply affected by changing temperatures. So
it causes in sometimes.
sometimes, yeah, exactly.
Yes, in some ways, yeah. When it's
And there,
not
like you
balanced.
said, there's when in these complex systems, there's trade-offs in all kinds of places, and so these are the kinds of conversations that I believe in developing systemic solutions we need to have, is to bring together diverse stakeholders to like talk about these different trade-offs and the pros and cons, and like move towards something better than where we are. But like you said, it's not as simple as saying organic is better than conventional, or, you know, vegan is better than meat, or, you know, I mean, there is definitely like evidence, you know, on every part of these types of arguments. And it's about having richer discussions about how, you know, people are going to benefit and lose out as we, you know, make changes or shifts. And I've been following a lot on the post-COVID world too. And like one of the things I think is really interesting, I mean, we've always known, we've lived in this world of strange dichotomies, right? Like we have obesity and hunger happening on the same planet. We have waste, right? And, you know, people suffering like because of inadequate amounts of food. And it's like, how does this all happen, and how do we fix this? And this is what, you know, we try to do in TFF. But I think like what COVID has shown too is like these broken supply chains have like resulted in, you know, millions more people being pushed into hunger. But at the same time, you see farmers, you know, like throwing away produce and, you know, killing animals that they can't sell, and this like return to national, you know, food security as a topic of the day. Whereas, you know, my era, we grew up in this globalized world. So it's like, I really feel like we're having some like existential questions. It's really brought home, I guess, a lot of the stuff that we've been thinking about and, you know, trying to tackle, but like now it's at the forefront of everybody's mind. And yeah, what do you see as like the steps forward?
Yeah, wow. Wow, so many information.
Yeah.
Actually, during your, when you were talking about all the opposites, the extremes, especially the extremes, I thought about something that I really think will happen after the COVID crisis, and especially with the mindset of everybody, not on professional lives, but also personal lives.
Yeah.
Something I think about the food systems at all, they are they went to a line of development, like very intensified, very intense in all terms, in the use of inputs and high productivities, high quality, whatever, to attend a population demand. But it's not an equal and balanced population demand. I have a huge population demand in few places in the world. I have a huge population concentrated in few cities. And maybe if we stop to think about why the system of productions are like they are today, maybe it's not because of the farmer, not because the farm wants to do this or that, but maybe to attend a population demand in the urban centers, and where it's impossible to produce clothes, it's impossible to have diverse offsite systems to attend this huge amount of food, or this huge volume, the scale of production, and the pattern, the standard of production that should also be attended. So maybe the system of production we have today it is happening because we have all people concentrated on the same place. And with the crisis, back to the crisis, after crisis, I believe that people will be more able to live in somewhere else, not necessarily in the same place, because everything is happening and everybody is working from home. So if everybody is working from home and things are working very well, why do I need to live here in São Paulo? Why do you need to live in a big city somewhere else? You can live in some other cities. And if we have this more balanced population distribution, maybe we can also redesign our systems of production and redefine the puzzles of systems of production nearby those different social centers. You know, I don't know if I made myself clear, but
100%, yeah.
What I mean is that the crisis is an awful thing, of course, but it will allow us to maybe to think about a different model of development. And different model of development in social way. I mean,
I think it's like such a great thought experiment. I like play that sometimes, like over a drink with my husband, is like, if like Martians came from another, you know, planet to Earth, like, and they had to like, you know, imagine how people would live and eat, etc. Like, what would they create if, you know, they had the constraints? They had a population of 7 billion people with the, you know, water and land that we have available. Like, what would they do, right? How would you do this from scratch? So I think it's like really interesting what you're saying, because maybe it's the chance to think about this. And again, I love to do this kind of thing. My husband is an architect, but like, I think exactly like bringing in urban planners, designers, energy companies, because like imagine if we are as human beings like more dispersed and we're all like in the cost of solar, you know, goes to basically zero, you know, transport then becomes like super easy and basically free. How would we produce our food? Because everything right now has been kind of like optimized for a way, like you said, for people living in concentrated areas, rural producers very dispersed, but transporting a lot of the stuff into the cities, which is super expensive and, you know, wasteful for fossil fuel.
Yeah, a lot of emissions related to the transport, and yeah, we have a lot of our problems nowadays. A lot of our issue nowadays are maybe related to our social distribution.
Like, yeah. I think it's super interesting. I'd love to like, we should do that, like nerd out. We can get some TFFers together and just like have a brainstorm, like how should we live? And I think, I mean, I've read a few books, like some futurists are doing this type of thing. But again, I think setting some of these ideas and visions of like what could be and what could go horribly wrong, you know, would be really, really interesting. And the pandemic is kind of like forcing us to think about all of this. But let's talk raisin and sugarcane. And before we dive into that, I just want to re-invite everyone, you know, in the attendees, if you have a question or if there's a topic or idea you want to share, just jump on into the Q&A or the chat. I'm looking at that. And also remember, if you are wanting to follow in Portuguese, shout out to Skylar, our partners on this. You can actually get live simultaneous translation. So yeah, tell me about like your day job in the sugar industry and like the kinds of things that you're thinking about, day to day.
Okay, so talking about Raízen, I'm still learning a lot about not only Raízen operations, but also about the sector. It is a new sector for me, and it is an amazing sector, and especially when we think about sustainability, circularity, or social issues, whatever. We have a huge field to work on. So Raízen is an integrated energy company, and since we were created, we were like committed to the energy transition. So we were born like producing renewable energy. So our business is of course is a great business for us, is a great business for our economy, but it's also a great business for the society as a whole, as a sustainable development goal. So we do produce energy from a renewable source, that is sugarcane. So we produce sugar, ethanol, we generate electricity from the biomass. This is our biggest business. And we are always investing a lot and investing in improve our portfolio of renewable energies and renewable products.
Mm-hmm.
The sugarcane sector is very circular.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
can you explain that? We love circular economy in TFF,
yes.
but how sugar is circular. Yeah,
that's very interesting, because the basic concept of circularity is to use the residues as a raw material, for example. So how we can improve the use of our residues to reduce the generation of residues and to use this in our own process. Mm-hmm. So we can use almost 100% of our industry's residues. So the bagasse is basically used to also to produce energy, but also to produce ethanol from second generation. So, in this point, we have two important topics to talk about. That is circularity, of course, and the other one is to be able to produce at least 50% more ethanol from the same area. So I use the area to produce sugarcane. I produce ethanol from sugarcane, and after that, I enjoy the bagasse to produce ethanol from second generation. And this is a very powerful thing. And we are also using other residues such as filter cake or vinasse to produce biofertilizers, and we also use this in our sugarcane areas of production. So
every part of sugar is like used for human and animal feed, e.g. energy, energy for transport and electricity in the form of biofuels, and then biogas, you said too.
Biogas, bioenergy, and yes. So we are recycling all our residues, but also we are contributing to the producing of other more sustainable products. For example, there are some technologies for bioplastics that can be produced from sugar or from ethanol. And when you are producing bioplastic from ethanol that is from sugarcane, so we are using on a better way all the natural resources we have to produce our normal life. So
yeah, super interesting. I mean, I'm obviously, you can tell, I guess, from my accent, American, and we have our version, right, of the sugarcane, which is corn, right, which is used for ethanol. Many of the products that you described, but I think Brazil and sugarcane-based, biofuels and have always been like kind of the standard in the world. I mean, also like your energy sector has been based on biofuels for a long time, right? It's like been at the forefront of it.
Yes. We use biofuels mostly since 1970s or 80s maybe, where there was a public policy that determined the use of biofuels, and it was a very important factor for our sector, for the development of our sector. And it does make a lot of sense, actually, because we have a huge capacity of sugarcane production, and the areas of production are not related to other food production areas. So
you don't have renewable versus food trade-off.
No, you don't need to trade off. Yeah, you can, and the areas where we are producing sugarcane, these areas are not competing with other crops, for example, maize or soybeans or whatever. And the other another thing it is that we are also a very renewable. We have also a very renewable energy metrics in Brazil. If you compare the energy mix, I mean, with other countries around the world, or except the OECD countries, the percentage of renewable energy is lower than in Brazil. Brazil is around 46% renewable, based on renewable sources. So, and we already have potential to increase these. We are a tropical country. We have potential to produce this. We have available areas, a lot of available areas coming from livestock production. So the movement, if you consider, for example, the movement of intensification of pastures land and intensification of livestock, you can release areas for other crops. And most of areas where we are producing sugarcane were pasture lands before, degraded pasture lands. So,
oh, super cool. Okay.
Yeah, it is a very interesting combination, and we always come back to the combinations of systems and the diversity and the puzzle of systems of production.
So how you can take degraded lands from livestock production, revitalize them with sugarcane production that is fueling literally the economy. Okay. And that's,
you don't need to open new areas.
You don't need to open new areas. Exactly. It's super fascinating. Okay. I need to Google this, but I feel like I just saw yesterday an announcement, side note, but that like Burger King and WWF are working on a project in Brazil around revitalizing some of these like livestock pasture lands. So I need to Google that and make sure.
Yeah.
I think it was in Brazil, but anyway, super interesting. Some of the new types of collaborations that are happening in the world. And, you know, you're seeing like companies, right, that are maybe like vilified in the world of food and ag, like stepping in to form these like multi-stakeholder partnerships that are doing some pretty incredible things. I want to like segue to a really important topic, because as you are talking about all of this potential, well, the existing success story, right, of sugarcane in Brazil, I mean, we can't discount the fact that it also has been like rife with some issues. There's been, you know, people who have criticized like slash and burn and, you know, some of the water use or whatever it may be, you know, the impact of sugarcane. So I can imagine your company is, as you mentioned at the outset, working on like metrics and measures to like increase, you know, reporting against some of these sustainability outcomes. But what about the role of innovation? What are some of the things that you're seeing, like game-changing technologies and approaches that are helping you be more sustainable and resilient as a company? And what are some of the solution spaces that you would like suggest entrepreneurs focus on if they want to get involved in like in making sugarcane, you know, even better than it is today?
Yeah, perfect point, Christine. Actually, it doesn't mean when I say that our business is a renewable fuel or something like this, it doesn't mean it is sustainable by nature. Like,
right.
Of course, we need to do this looking at a better way all the time. So we need to do this on a better way, on a sustainable way, looking for where we can improve our process, where can we improve our technologies or innovate something to do it in a better way. So yes, we have some different initiatives. Maybe I can pass through some of them. We have some initiatives, some programs to improve the use of our natural resources. Maybe the most important natural resources for our culture is water and soil, if we be very simple here. And water is something very, very important for us. We had a huge crisis a few years ago, and we had some industries that could not work, could not operate, because of course a water crisis is something very critical for the population. And we have a specific program to reduce the use of water, the use and the collection of external sources of water. And our goal is to improve the use of water inside our process, our operation. and to have the minimum extra collection and keep cycling the water inside our system. This is our goal, and we have this this program running 5 years from 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
And we are improving this program. It is the HIDUSA program.
Okay.
We also have a lot of technologies have been implementing on the field. So to improve the productivity, to grow the productivity, how many energy can I extract from the same area? So this is something we are focused on too. So to implement all technologies to improve the yield of our sugarcane areas.
Yeah.
We also look for international standards of quality and sustainability too. So we are based on some certifications, some programs, some ISOs, Bon Sucro's certifications, or all the stamps we can have and all the process we can follow to improve our systems. We also look at that. Life cycle assessment of our products to understand where we can improve the practices, what kind of inputs we can manage on a better way, what kind of inputs we can reduce the use, where or how much we can reduce or improve the productivity. And the other, maybe the most difficult and challengeful part is to share all those good practices that we have inside our operations with our suppliers.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the biggest challenge we have, and how we can ensure, or how can we influence the adoption of good practices along our supply chain. So we also have a program that was recently recognized by CECLAC. I don't know the name in English, actually. It is one of the agents of United Nations for economic development in Latin America and Caribbean. And they recognized it. They did a call for initiatives, for cases in sustainability, and we and the ELO program, that is the program we have with our sugarcane suppliers, was recognized as one of the sustainable initiatives that really foster sustainability in the field and really contribute to a more sustainable way and sustainable development model. And in this program, we can share with our suppliers all the good practices. We can influence their practices. We can have kind of a technical assistance with them, focused on sustainability. So focused on what they do, what they can do to improve their practices, to their environmental practices, or especially related to the social practices, like with their workers, how they manage their workers and the workers' conditions, the safety, the health and safety of the workers, and how can they put all the good practices on the ground. And then through this program we can accompany all our suppliers, understand what are the most risky practices they are using, and we can also do something that is very important for big companies, and I consider very important actually for big companies. It would be easy only to say I have some patterns and I do not accept anything above these patterns, okay? Under these patterns, only above this. And it is okay, of course, for communication to consumers, for communication to society, it is okay because it is what they are expecting for big companies to do. But in practice, when we do this, when we just settle a baseline and then we just don't do anything about it, Actually, we are putting some producers and sometimes many of the producers aside of the market.
Yeah.
And through this program, what we try to do is not only to say what we want they do, but help them to do. Like,
it's amazing. Yeah. It's
having people there working with them, advising them, like technical assistance. Like a technical assistance, they ask, for example, for producing, how to get better practices on my cultivation or agricultural technical advices, but also sustainable technical advices. So
and I think what's really interesting in this model, because like in the company I used to work for, we did similar type of approaches, right? To really like empower growers, like to help them become more sustainable and stewards of, you know, the land, and help them technify. But the other like impact was the company was learning too from the growers. So there was this like two-way like learning that was happening that I feel like was also really, really exciting for like the future, because there's a lot of like knowledge and, you know, deep understanding of like interesting practices and approaches, etc., that, you know, many growers have that I think companies can learn from too. So having these types of programs, I think facilitates that, you know.
Yeah, that's true. It's possible to better understand our suppliers when we are nearby them, when we are on a daily activities, and understand their difficulties, their challenges, and how can we help them to improve their practice too, because we are also managing our risk of supply.
Exactly.
So we need them as a supplier. So of course it's important to ensure they are meeting some minimal criteria, of course. And when they don't meet those minimal criteria, of course we advise them, try to pull them to the good position. But if they don't want to, we don't have anything to do. But we always try to work with them and to elevate.
That's great.
To be together.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And I think like this is the kind of like paradigm we need for better food systems for the future. Last shout out to the crowd. We have 5 minutes left. If anybody has a question, like throw it into the chat and I'll take it. But I guess like one question that I have, like to, you know, close out this really interesting session, which I already am like, seeing so many opportunities to continue working with you and have you speak, because it's just, you're really like great at, I don't know, delivering these like really important messages. So thank you for, you know, being part of this. But my question is, you know, what do you hope happens next in 2020 for food systems transformation? Like if there's like a wish that you could have.
Wow, that's a very, very difficult question, Christine. I hope so many good things, actually.
Exactly.
Okay. So, well, I can use two of the messages I have prepared for our conversation to answer these difficult questions you did.
Sorry.
Maybe one of the points we have already talked a lot about, there is the diversity and the multi-stakeholder initiatives that I think that will be, if you ask me how you imagine the future of the production and how do you imagine the future of the agribusiness, I really hope that it will not be more like different boxes. I would like to see a huge puzzle, a very mixed and colorful puzzle, and a lot of different kind of initiatives working together and living and working simultaneously. So this is something I learned, and I have a great opportunity to learn this with multi-stakeholders initiative, and I do believe that we cannot do anything by ourselves. It's better to have partnerships and as more different partnerships we have, it's better. So maybe this is the first thing. Mm-hmm. And the other thing I also would like to happen in the future is for us to try to put more efforts to find the middle way. I see the world very extremist, you know. Nowadays, when we talk about sustainability, you have the black and the white. You have the 80 and the 8. You have the extremes. And what I think about sustainability is as I said, is the diversity. Is to understand how to find the middle way. So if you want to understand better about sustainability, if you want to know better about sustainable development, try to adopt the behavior of not to be in the extremes. Yeah. If you read or if you watch something you agree, try to look for something the opposite point of view, and then you will be able to exercise your critic view, your arguing, your understanding about this topic. So do not keep like agreeing with everything, or not talking only with people who really agree with your point of view, but try to have broader conversations. I think this is very related to sustainability.
I love that. And it's so like in the spirit of our organization. We totally have to have another conversation, and Jessica and Mateus can also tell you more about it, but we embrace this concept of like multispectral thinking, which is exactly that, moving away from the polarities to all of the opportunities for innovation and collaboration that lie in between when you explore nuance and you really are seeking to embrace complexity.
Yeah.
So,
and I think your community, the TFF community, is a very important example of this.
Yeah, we're an embodiment of that.
Congratulations about this.
A lot of like speaking about and thinking about is like, I believe the next generations are naturally equipped to embrace diversity and complexity, and this is like exactly going to lead us towards this future that you laid out so beautifully. So thank you so much for your time today, and I really love this conversation and can't wait to keep on talking. You validated my love for Brazil.
Okay, good.
Everyone from Brazil on today's call, bom dia. And thanks again for your time, and we look forward to chatting with you again soon.
Thank you, Christine, for this opportunity, and thank you, everybody.
Yes, bye, Beatriz. Bye.